So Alan Wake came out a few days ago, and of course the first glance of it was rather interesting, with me randomly walking sideways over a cliff and some other moments in it as well. You can hear Fluke merrily laughing away in the background there, so of course Fluke is joining me on this one, as we've kind of decided to turn OST into a two-man show and do this with me and him all the time, and then have extra people join us occasionally for certain things. So Fluke, you can go ahead and laugh and yell hello now.
What's up, guys?
So, yeah, I randomly walked over a cliff, and this was because, like, for me, the keyboard, I always found myself drifting listlessly, as you guys heard me talk about in the video. But, like, what were your first impressions of this game then? Because you played it in 2 sittings over the weekend.
Yeah, and I've never played it on the console either. So for me it was a totally new game, and I didn't play it with a controller. I played it with a mouse and keyboard. I can't stand playing anything where if you've got to aim a gun, a flashlight, a guy in a general direction, I can't stand using a joypad. I just can't do it. It's like using a joystick. It just doesn't work. So mouse and keyboard all the way. And I initially had some problems with the whole, like you said, the drifting listlessly. Couldn't quite tell which way my character was facing. But once I got armed with a flashlight, it's like, well, I'm going where that flashlight's pointing, so it gave me a reference point, so I had far less of a problem after that. It worked quite well. I have a G13, I normally bind that to control keys because I have a problem with RSI and using a keyboard for a long period of time. Well, these are nice and simple to pick up. There aren't a million controls, they're all in one place on the keyboard. I picked it up and just played it with a mouse and keyboard, really. Didn't have much of a problem.
See, I actually switched. I started using the mouse and keyboard, and then I changed and started using the controller, because I knew you would use the mouse and keyboard. We discussed it, and like you were saying, oh yeah, there's no way I can use a controller on this. So I decided I'd use the controller. And the issue that I had was the drifting thing, and it was really irritating, because okay, during the night when you got the flashlight, you kind of have, like, you know, a marker of I'm heading in this direction. But like during the day, I found myself randomly wandering sideways. It was just as if I had an inner ear infection. And it was just like, I'd be walking down the street, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, suddenly into traffic. It's like there the life of Alan Wake was cut short when he was hit by a car coming the other way.
Drunken man down the street.
But yeah, so the controller seemed to work a lot better for me. It worked a lot smoother, and I don't really have an issue with third person when they're being done on a controller. So I can easily switch between the two. I did find that the menus and everything actually smart detect whether you're using a controller and keyboard, like a lot of games do these days, which was quite nice. I know that I played Alice Madness Returns a while back, and that didn't. Like when you were reading tutorials and things, it actually gave you the keys, and then it gave you the controller options after that, maybe, if you were lucky, as it determined if you were using a controller on a PC, you're a second-grade citizen.
To be fair, they're not far short.
Yeah. But so, you didn't have an issue with the keyboard and mouse. What else were your first impressions of the game? Go on, give me a few more before we
the
get into
graphics
this.
thing that you highlighted, I guess I didn't look too closely. I don't generally play scary games, for want of a better way of putting it. I mean, I played Left 4 Dead, I play zombie survival games, but it's more about the FPS, or it's really about the story, shall we say.
Story-driven games.
Story-driven, they're very atmospheric, and I didn't get into fear or anything like that. So I was more kind of, frankly, a bit kind of bewildered at what was going on at first. I was like dropping into this inverted commas nightmare, and I'm like, right. I had a bit of trouble focusing on stuff.
The first thing that I did in the nightmare was I went, right, I'm in a nightmare. This is really weird. Ooh, a thermos.
Yeah, I was like, what's that glinting thing over on the end of the flask full of coffee? What am I gonna...
Surprise!
I have no idea. So I'm just, picking up this random thermos of coffee and wandering off through the forest towards some lighthouse. And this guy starts chasing me with an axe, and everything's a bit blurry. And that was a bit where it got a bit irritating. And I had to stop playing for a while because it started to do my eyes in. I was playing it late on, I was a bit tired, which is probably my fault. But the blurriness in the background and the whole dream sequence, blurry edge to things, really made it difficult for my eyes to focus and to kind of figure out where I'm supposed to be going. what exactly is supposed to be going on.
Did you have any issues with the dreamy haze later on when you came back to the game, or was it not really affecting you that much then?
It wasn't that much of a problem later on once I'd got more, I think once I'd found my feet in the game, once I'd figured out what, you know, figured out my environs, found out, right, this is how it works, this is what I'm going to be doing, this is how the game's going to throw things at me, you know, these are my weapons, this is how combat seems to work, and I got a bit, I was alright after that point, till later, mind, I did get kind of lost after you find your first safe haven. You start this generator and the thing spawns behind you, and I start the generator and the light comes on just as the thing swings for me and gets evaporated by the light. And then I couldn't figure out where to go for like 10-15 minutes. I just kept wandering out of this safe haven, loads of things kept spawning and I'm shooting them all down and I run out of ammo, can't figure out where I'm supposed to go. It took me 10-15 minutes because of the blurry mist thing. I understand it's a puzzle game and not my general choice of genre, but started to get a little bit frustrating. Because I just happened to stumble upon the path where I was supposed to go. So that was a bit... Yeah, I felt like I knew what I was supposed to be going, and the story was kind of progressing up until that point, and then it kind of broke the immersion a bit, like, oh, goddamn stupid game, where am I supposed to be going?
I found with the graphics that I found myself being too analytical, and like I was really like pulling out the magnifying glass, because they touted in it that, you know, when they brought it to the PC that they'd make it a better PC game and they'd do all these newfangled wonderful things with it, and the graphics is one of the things they hyped up, but some of them, if you actually look close, look really, really crap, like the ones that I pointed out in the first glance, like the mud on the side of the truck. But overall, looking at the whole package, they have polished it up rather nice.
I must say, I've never really seen it on the Xbox either, but the initial bit where you're on the ferry, which I'm guessing it is to show off the graphics and kind of showcase the game.
Which is ironic, because that's where the muddy truck that looks like ass is. But the water, you know...
Providing you don't look at said aforementioned truck.
The poop
and
truck.
You just kind of look off the front of the ferry, and it does look it's a very attractive looking game. I was quite impressed with how it didn't seem to stutter at all, it didn't seem to have any trouble. Water and reflections were nice, lots of background detail, lots of things going on, just general life. It looked like a ferry coming into a town.
The FPS in the game, I actually wasn't playing with VSync on at first, but then I noticed a huge amount of screen tearing.
I had a lot of tearing even with VSync on, which I couldn't quite figure out.
The issue is that I was actually watching my FPS when I didn't have VSync on, and I was getting like 600, 700 FPS. Like, that is a heavily optimized engine. That's
I suppose
like,
if it's been optimized for the Xbox and then they've added bits and pieces on, then they've had quite a long way to go since the Xbox hardware came out. PC hardware's moved on.
Yeah, it runs so smoothly though that the screen tearing is more of a case of it's running too well to some degree. Like with VSync on, I haven't really noticed much screen tearing unless I do very specific things. But overall, like there's a bit in the first episode where you can actually stand on a cliff face and you can see the route that you need to take through the level through some fog. Like the logging camp area, you can see round and down.
Ways into
and looking down upon it, looking down upon it, it's beautiful, isn't it?
The engine is quite nice, man. Is it a custom engine?
Yes, it is.
So it's built completely from scratch. That would explain a lot, because it does seem to handle those open scenes very, very well. I didn't seem to notice any kind of stutter or lag with a wide open, beautiful scene that you tend to see in every game. I'm probably going to get shot in the head for saying this, but I think it looked better than Skyrim does on my machine. Granted, I haven't played with the new HD textures or anything like that. Just Skyrim at launch wasn't as attractive as this is.
It was done in the Max FX 3.0 engine, which I can't off the top of my head pull anything else that was done in this engine. But it was done in a few engines. Like it was done in Max FX 3, Havoc, which really shows through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit on the bridge when you're in the initial scene, running for the lighthouse and things are flying over your shoulder and taking out bits of the bridge. Felt very Half-Life 2.
And the other one that comes in, and really you can actually see it shine through really well, oddly, which given the name of the engine, you know. It's the Umbra Occlusion Booster to add like all those wonderful lighting effects, and the lighting in this game is...
The shadows, yes, that was what I was hoping we'd touch on, and the graphics thing. The play with shadows, I think, has been very well done. There are a few letdowns to the side of the graphics engine, like some of the textures, like you say, aren't as good as they could be, but it's only when you've got them in bright light will you ever notice that. They use shadows to such a good effect during most of the first episode that I've done.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of, it's glimmers of light and moving shadows that you're constantly looking around with a flashlight, like, what was that? Where did that noise come from? And I'm constantly flicking the flashlight, and I thought that was very good. It's
the lighting in it. I
haven't seen that done that well before. Light always seems to, well, batter PCs when it comes to FPS and quality of processing. Yeah. That always seems to be where the problem is, but it did that very smoothly and very well.
The lighting in the game is actually impressing me more than I think anything else when it comes to graphics. Like, lighting in this actually looks realistic. It looks...
The torch beam is brilliant.
Not just the torch beam, but also the floodlights and like light when other people are shining lights at you, or when like you open the door and bright light comes pouring out. There's that initial moment of blindness.
When I was stood in that first safe haven, like I was saying, that thing got evaporated behind me. When you stood in the safe haven, you know, this big kind of street lamp powered by the generator in front of you, you can't see diddly squat past about 3 feet.
Yes.
Because of this huge bright light above you. You've got to step into the dark to be able to see anything. And it's just like, well, I don't want to go out there because I can't see anything, but I'm not going to be able to see anything until I go out there. Like, well, this isn't very nice.
Yeah, the one that I had was the safe haven, where you find the first one. Like, thankfully, when you're in a safe haven, enemies, you know, despawn as it kind of resets them. But I found that with the lighting, like when I was stood in the light, it was like, my God, I cannot see anything. And then it's like all of a sudden, you know, a wrench hits you in the side of the face. It's like, son of a! And it's like, of course, you're stood in, you know, bright friggin' light, and the enemies are off in the darkness. So it's just like, it serves you right that you get hit in the side of the face with a wrench. But the same is like, who threw that? Where are you? I can't see you.
Say something so I can hear you. Yeah. That worked quite well, mine. I noticed the sound engine seemed. There's a few
positioning sound around you.
Positioning of the water was a bit off in places, but the when you chased the guy, I can't remember his name now. We went to the garage. Stucky, yeah, he's kind of stalking you through the trees, where you know when you can hear the voice pan round you. And I'm stood there in the forest and I'm like panning the torch and I'm like, where are you, son of a... I've got a shotgun now. Where will I find you?
The positional audio around you is fantastic. They've really got the 5.1 and 7.1 systems down. It's not just a case of it's off to your left or it's off to your right. It is a case of he's behind you to the left. And it's like you swing round and it's like he's right there and it's just like, oh, crap.
So I've got this 5.1 headset now, this Rockhard Cave. There's been 3 drivers in it.
Advertising! Oh,
I know, right? But it's a really good headset. It's one of the best. It's a true 5.1.
Yeah.
And this is the first game I've really played, and I didn't even think about it till I played it. And it was like, wait a minute, that was... And at one point I found myself starting to turn in my chair before my brain went, you're playing a game, idiot. And it was... the noise was right behind me. It was very atmospheric, and it did at times make me jump.
Yes, I've jumped a few times. It frightened me
in places. It was like, no, it is very, very good for that. It uses shadows, light, the whole package comes together very well. They've got the atmosphere thing down pat.
One of the ones that I had was in the first area, in the first episode, there's a bit where, you know, you're being chased by stuff here, and things happen. But one of the, like, all of a sudden there's, you're doing something, and then there's the cut. And you're in a house and you see things fall outside the window. You know the bit I'm getting at without, you know, mentioning it too much. And just as it hit the ground, like there was that creak, and then as it hit the ground, the light came on outside my house, and I nearly fell out of my goddamn chair. Like the light came on just to hit the ground, and it was the security light beams right through my window, and it was just like I crap myself. I swear I nearly lost my shit right then and there. It was just like no, that was it.
Nope, taking a break.
But no, I kept going. I have to admit though, the graphics and the lighting are all wonderful. The story though, there are certain points in the story that I'm not too keen on because it feels like I'm basically watching an old Thunderbirds TV show. Like they've got the voice acting down. The voice acting feels good. I'll draw on the characters in a little bit, but the voice acting is great, but the facial expressions. They don't have any facial expressions. Occasionally their eyebrows might move a little, but that's about it.
They do seem a little wooden, but again they try not to show too much in the way of up-close facial kind of shots to avoid that. They seem to be quite aware of the limitations of their engine, mind. I'll give them credit where it's due.
Yeah. They try to work around the limitations as best they can, but it ruins the immersion sometimes when, you know, you have a guy run up to you and he's like, my god, Alan, are you okay? And it's just like his face completely stays still as if someone's just shoved their hand right up inside him. And he's just like, bottle of beer. Ha ha.
Yeah. Wearing a man puppet.
Speaking of Alan, are you okay? Is it just me or is the character an absolute dick? He's like an anti-hero sort of thing. Like the agent... I don't think you've got as far as meeting the agent yet, but you've had your phone call with him.
Yeah, I've had a phone call with him, and frankly, if I could have punched people over the telephone, I think I'd have given that man a black eye.
The agent is so annoying, but Alan, like, the bit at the beginning, after the bridge, like first glance ends at the bridge, like just after the bridge, you get into the house, and then like your wife is like, oh, Alan, come here, look at this, look what I've got for you.
I've got a surprise for you, and you go
it's
upstairs,
like, what the hell is this?
on the bed in, like, you know, negligee, and then, no, the surprise isn't me in the other room.
It's like, where this is the surprise, and he kind of looks and goes, what the hell is this? And it's like, well, it's a typewriter, idiot. They had them before you started writing everything on your MacBook.
They did have the bit, though, before that kind of stuck in my mind, that he'd been a while since he'd been able to write anything.
Yeah,
he'd had this
like
bit of a
when you're
block, and he was
wandering
getting
around
quite
outside.
stressed himself about it. Like, kind of...
Oh yeah, like
that kind of stuck in my mind. It was like straight away. I kind of empathised with him. It was like, oh, for God's sake, woman, you're supposed to be away on a trip, you know, be away on a holiday, and she's, you know, brought a typewriter and go, look, you couldn't write and you're all stressed about it. We're away on holiday to try and relax, so he has work shoved in your face. Frankly, I'd have hit it with a typewriter.
But the issue with that, for me, is they're not the actual, like, what the hell is this? What are you doing? How dare you, woman? Whoosh. It's the bit after that where he's just like, you're a bad person, and I'm going to, like, go outside in the dark, which you're scared of, purposely, because I'm a dick. Like,
I'm going to go outside and get some space before I say something I'll regret. If I go outside in the dark, she's going to leave me alone because she's not going to follow me here.
It's the wording of it, though. He's basically he's being a child and throwing his toys out of the pram, and he's like, yep. Well, I'm going to go outside and, like, mope in the dark because she's got a fear of it because she thinks that a clown is going to randomly appear and eat her. So I'm just going to sit out here and mope like a miserable sod while she's scared of getting her face chewed off.
Yeah, but he's got the balls to tell you exactly why he's done it.
Yeah,
that's
like,
the thing.
He's a very anti-hero.
Like, yeah, he's honest about it. So no, I can kind of. We all have those kind of thoughts. It's just this guy's actually acting on it.
Yeah, but he's egotistical in some ways. Like he believes he's like slightly better than other people. Like, it shows through in the cafe as well when he's talking to like Rose, and all that little bit.
We all do that, dude. He's an everyman. That's the thing. That's
why I find some connections with him, and I like him to some degree. But also at the same time, I'm like, my God, Alan, you're such a prick.
Yeah, but the thing is that the bits where he's such a prick, it's like we've all done it. We all have those same thoughts. We are all that same prick.
Yeah. So
that's why you dislike the bits about him. It's the same bits about yourself you dislike.
I dislike all the bits about myself. Like, I actually like Alan somewhat. I wouldn't mind being him. He can write. The only thing I can write is like, I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was good, not as good as Modern Warfare. It's like that's the best I can write. Anyway, so characters sort of. what was I about to say? I was about to say something, and it was good, and it was important, and I've completely forgotten what it was, which was the episodic thing. Like, the whole episodic thing, I really personally liked, but I've heard a lot of people... Yeah, because it's the whole, like, it randomly ends with, like, the cliffhanger at the end of, like, certain episodes, and there's plot twists and, you know, all that kind of thing, but it's the whole, that whole, previously on Alan Wake, but I'm pregnant! Honey, you can't be pregnant, you're a man! It's that whole...
I don't kind of get why... I do and I don't. It's...
Yeah.
It's a game. It's not a film. Are they trying to kind of break it up into blocks so you kind of play it in pieces and remember each piece well?
Well,
it's short little
the way it works is that instead of chapters, it's episodes, so you can go back and play an episode, but they're kind enough to do the whole previously thing. So, you know, if someone else is playing a chapter, then they get that. But also because the DLC for it that was included free for the PC version was actually included as extra episodes. So that really worked quite well and fell in really nicely. But in the whole stylized way of doing it like a TV show, I kind of personally really liked the whole aspect of the plot twists and the cheesy sci-fi-esque style, like voice-over talking, way Alan actually words certain things and the way things in the show play out. It's very...
And it's part of the whole package, really.
Yeah, it's kind of outlandish in places. Yeah. That really kind of works for a TV show because while it's trying to be, you know, it's trying to be a thriller and psychological and tense, it still has that light-hearted humor
moments. It is, in some ways, it is that bad, and it's nodding towards the cliches of, you know, the bad action thriller with the right, like, he even mentions
bits
The
Shining, and he mentions...
That's exactly what I was going to say,
when
he goes in there, the writer goes somewhere,
Which I don't think you've had the Deliverance bit yet, but he mentions The Shining when he thinks that the guy's going to come through the door with the axe. And then there's also a one
of... That made me chuckle, mind, because it was... That's how it felt. It felt like The Shining.
Your agent Smack talks the locals. He calls them yokels. And he's going on about how, like, you better behave yourself, otherwise we might have a deliverance moment on here, sort of thing. And it's like, it's really kind of, oh god, just shut up before I kick you over this cliff, you fat bastard.
Oh, I've never met him otherwise, goddamn, I'd be tempted.
The one issue that I have, the biggest one that really irks me, like the small big issue for me, is the weighting of objects. Like, there's got a havoc engine in there and you can move things around, like the logs and the barrels and the bins and stuff. But if you're going to give me that kind of freedom in an engine, give it to me on everything. Like tables, you cannot move a table. The table is stuck. But a dumpster, I can move a dumpster with my bare friggin' hands.
Hulk move dumpster.
Yeah, it's like, why?
But doesn't do feng shui.
So this dumpster is in a bad place. Yeah. Done.
The table's fine.
If you could pick one bad thing to criticize,
it's kind of limitation of it. The whole havoc physics engine, it'd be a massively complicated thing to go through and weight all of the objects because you then get onto the whole invisible wall and pathing thing,
and then it complicates the thing like massively. But if you had to pick one bad thing, if you had to pick one thing to rag on about this game, what is it?
The camera, I think, is probably the thing that bugs me the most.
What about it? Is it the fact that it's off to the side?
Hangs off to one side. Yeah, you should be able to.
Well, you can change it with tab. You can like shift it over each shoulder with tab.
Yeah, you can shift it over to the other shoulder, but you can't just.
But then you're still not in the middle.
Yeah. It just feels odd. I'm used to playing FPS, and like I say, it's not my usual genre. I don't play an awful lot of third-person type things.
Mine would actually be replayability, and this is an odd one. And you know me, like, I don't really replay games. Like, it's very rare for me to replay a game once I've seen the ending. And that irks me in this because the novel that you're picking up pages from the memoir.
And you have to go through and replay it in Nightmare to get some of the pages, I noticed that.
Which irritates the ever-living piss out of me.
Yeah, it means it's essentially forcing a second playthrough to get all the content.
Especially in a game like this, where
you know what's coming, you know what the guy's going to say next. Yeah. No, I can see that being an irk, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that was my big irk. So, okay, what... If you had
You've got the same with the collectibles, though, because if you're a bit of a completist, you're going to want to go through that again, and you're like, nightmare, well, I'll get all the collectibles this time.
Yeah, because there's 100 coffee thermoses, so, you know, that's a fair amount. And I think there's 8 episodes, including the DLC, and I don't think the thermoses are in the DLC. I think there's new thermoses in the DLC. So you've got 100 thermoses over 6 episodes. Now, that's a fair amount in each episode.
Yeah.
So you may miss some. But if you had to actually compare this game to another game, you know, like, so if someone came up to you and said, okay, so Alan Wake, what kind of game is it like?
Oh, the name escapes me. Were you the photographer? The zombie one in the mall?
Dead Rising.
Yeah, Dead Rising. It has a lot of similarities with that in the way of replayability as well, I think. The way the collectibles and things work. The way the monsters spawn in and things work like that. The way they just kind of will respawn if you go back into the light. How it handles the spawns. I think it shares a lot with that, actually, now I think about it. The way it was kind of episodic and set like it was, you know, from a whole outside point of view.
Yeah. That works. So for me it would be, I believe, Fatal Frame, which is a console game which some of the viewers may know, and also things like Silent Hill. Not so much Resident Evil. I think there's too much combat in Resident Evil, and it's more scary than Alan Wake is. I know some people are going to be like, what, Resident Evil scary? No. But I think
a different kind of scary, less guts and gore. This is less guts and gory and much more atmospheric. Like, the hell was that?
It's also very jumpy, I've noticed in this.
I don't want to go around that tree. There's something. Oh no, there's not. It was just a shadow.
It takes the Doom approach as well. It's very jump. Like
it doesn't have to keep throwing waves and waves and waves of monsters at you. It just has to throw one hiding in the shadows where you didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Where he will make you shat your pants.
Yeah, because it's that whole thing in Doom, like, you know, you pick up a health kit, you turn around, booga booga, and he's right there. That kind of thing, rather than like...
Actually, now that you say that, I did notice it was like, oh, there's a checkpoint save. You know, you get the little boom noise.
Yeah.
Boom, there's a checkpoint save, and there's a guy. It was the
checkpoints are in
and
really
a
nice
bit of
locations.
combat.
I really did enjoy the checkpoints. It was nice, because you can't manually save it, it's all checkpoints.
Yeah, I only died once I got to that safe haven. That was the first time I actually died.
So, if you had to sum up the game in one sentence, come on, give me one sentence that sums up this game for you.
Scary horror, environmental type game. No, that's not going to work. It's difficult because it's quite a. It's difficult because it's not my usual genre. To be fair, it's not my area of expertise. I don't normally play scary games.
You can do it. Come on.
Yeah. We'll think of something. Horror game like playing TV series. I think the best way of doing it.
The grammar in that sentence was bloody atrocious. I think
a horror game that's like playing a TV series.
I think mine would be cheesy TV style anti-hero thriller.
Fair enough.
That works for me. Like I don't get along with.
It's a cleaned up version of mine. To be fair, less time to think about it than you did.
I don't really like Alan, so that really gets me. So I think that's really everything. Like I would recommend this game for anyone that, you know, played Silent Hill and Resident Evil and those kind of games and was after something that was story driven and really kind of that third person darkness style thing.
I think this will probably be a lot more what some people maybe wanted out of Silent Hill and that kind of game. It's less survival horror and more a good thriller story.
Yeah. Overall, I think they did really well with the PC release of this. I think it worked very well.
Well, I don't think it's got any major flaws. There's nothing that really stood out and annoyed me to the point where I wouldn't play that game again. I'm quite interested to see what happens. Now I've got to the end of episode 1 and, you know, the sheriff's like, wait, do you know where Stucky is? And this kind of real world. So he's not in the nightmare.
It's like, wait,
so this is the real world. What's going on?
I'm a crazed psychopathic writer that's had a breakdown and has killed like 20 people in your quiet like village.
Yeah, that's just rampaged through the forest and
my
shot
bad.
all the forestry workers. My bad.
I did notice something that I just want to point out before we end. You might have seen one of these, but I ran into one of these at the beginning of episode 2. There's one of these. There's a QR code in the game. There's QR codes. Yeah, there's QR codes in the game. And if you
I didn't see any of those.
there's one at the beginning of episode 2, right at the very beginning of episode 2. It's on the wall in the house, right at the beginning. And I couldn't help but pull out my phone and check what this QR code was on my screen. And it turns around and it says to me, who would have thought that this game is as enjoyable sat at a desk as it is on a couch? Who would have thunk it? And it's basically them tongue-in-cheek, basically going, see, this game is as good on PC as it is on console. Yeah. And it's like, that. I think that's pretty good. Like, I hope I find more of these QR things, and I hope they, like, keep doing it like that.
Little Easter eggs. Yeah, that's quite a clever way of doing it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that about wraps it up, really. I mean, there's not much else to say, you know. Third-person, psychological thriller, story-driven game, has lots of crows in it, and occasionally light and darkness.
Yeah, crows.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm actually, the more I think about it now, I quite want to give it another go and get back in. So my second thought after my little second play session would be, yeah, I'd say this is quite a well done game. It's drawn me in, and I'm not the usual kind of player of this sort of game.
There you
You
go.
might even see me play.
Made a
that again.
believer out of you.
Yeah, could well have. It'll certainly entertain the other half. Sat behind me watching me regularly pat myself.
I think my final thought would be that I need to go and buy Energizer batteries. There's my final thought on that one.
Energizer batteries and a rubber sheet.
Yeah.
There we go.
And just Energizer batteries is like they're everywhere. Goddamn product placement. But anyway, there you go. That was Alan Wake on second thought, and I hope you're enjoying the game as much as we are. I can't wait to actually jump back in it once this is done and dusted. And also, I will just point out, Fluke, I didn't drop a goddamn pen the entire episode.
You didn't this time. Were you sat playing with one?
I was for some of it, and then I stopped and started playing with a toothpick, which I dropped.
Yeah.
I'll admit it, I dropped it. You didn't hear it. Yeah, that's the key point. So, there you go. Alan Wake on second thought. If you've got anything that you want to let us know about, guys, drop in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button and the like button, of course, and we will catch you next week for whatever the hell the game is next week. I honestly don't know yet. Who do I look like? Your mother? Anyway, we will catch you then. Peace.
God, I hope not. Later, guys.